Hi there, and I'm live earlier. If you hear anything in the background, what you're hearing probably today is laundry, because it is laundry day. I have the day off, and I've decided that I was going to make a video, do some laundry, and hopefully get to talk to you guys a bit about some different things. So I'm going to do a bit of like pulling behind the curtain. Today I'm going to be doing like some box set stuff. I'm going to start off with some Canadiana box sets. And I'm going to talk a bit about the channel, some questions and some things that I got asked. Some things that I think are kind of cool and kind of important. So we'll get this part out of the way like first, and then we'll get into like box sets and movies and all that fun type of stuff. So, hey Scott, how's it going? I got asked recently. Well, recently I got asked about like why this, why this particular format, why live all the time, why not like shoot and edit the videos and then just do a live stream like once a week like some people do. Well, because I'm totally lazy. No. The reason for that basically is that I did want to make this into like a club, a place where people could kind of come and hang out, and some place where you can kind of have fun and get to know other people. Were you really? And the whole idea behind that started with, hey, real life Andrew. Thanks a lot. The whole idea behind that is that basically when you come in here, you can eventually, you get to know other people, and you don't just get to see my mug, but you talk to people, you talk to people around you, and you get to make friends on here. That's what it is. Also, I'm not going to lie, we had a little bit of like a trolling stuff in here the last few days, but the good thing about having a live atmosphere where people go back and forth and they kind of know each other is that that stuff doesn't really work well in this type of environment, as like I guess they kind of found out, but because everybody kind of knows everybody, and everybody has each other's back. We're very kind of like, and we're very welcoming to new people. But it's pretty easy on to tell if someone's going to do something like that. We do keep it out of the drama aspect, because movies and fun, that's what we're here for. At least I hope that's what we're here for. Because if you're just here to see me, that's super boring. You want the movies, you want the real interesting, the meat of the stuff. And that's, by far and large what I want to do. Now, what we're starting with today, and I'm not quite sure how long this video is going to go. I'm doing laundry all day, so I may be doing a video, kind of coming in and out and doing stuff. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how this experiment goes and who pops in. But I wanted to start with something that's kind of near and dear and kind of true to my heart. I am, after all, Canadian. And if the accent doesn't give that away, then this, the fact that I live in Nova Scotia and came here from Newfoundland probably does. Hopefully by next year I'll be like bilingual and be able to like slip in some French phrases as well. But you want tips for interesting films? Exactly. The idea for this for a lot of these things here, like some people ask me why I redo things, why I've done like umpteen on Giallo or umpteen on Scream or Arrow or stuff like that. I consider them to be like kind of like major boutique labels. So no matter what I do, I try to put something new into that, and with the live group, you guys put something new into it as well, and that's kind of like the gist of the whole channel, is to get something new in there. And I did like a bunch of like what do you call them, videos, like kind of like filmed videos, and with the whole kind of like comical Professor Pin moniker that was given to me. But I didn't find that would work well in the end, because then it feels like I'm just talking to you or talking down, and I wanted it so that we were talking to each other. Doesn't seem so douchey that way, does it? So what we're going to go with first, and this is how I want to start today, is where I am Canadian. I do have like a bunch of Canadian box sets, like TV box sets and stuff like that. And I'm going to grab some movie box sets as well to show you some different things, some different Canadian stuff. And I'll give you a little like kind of a nugget as well. If you've been watching my channel for a while and you're looking at my my screen, You see my screen grabs, which are usually pretty awful. You know, the thumbnails that I do there. There's actually a, if you go back through, you'll notice that a lot of them will show, you know, movies, and it'll show me, well, usually just one eye. That's not on purpose. My favorite movie is Black Christmas, and one of my favorite directors being Bob Clark. And in Black Christmas, and also in the movie, oh God, the Sherlock Holmes film that he did, the most terrifying part, the part that most people remember, is the closet with the eye showing out, just the eye showing out of it. So whenever you see me do that on a thumbnail, that's actually a secret little like nod to, hey Murdersville, that's actually a secret little nod to my favorite movie, Black Christmas. So for people that just came in, ta-da, I do put little Easter eggs in there for people to kind of find out on their own. We are talking Canadian box sets. So we're going to over like a bunch of Canadian shows. A lot of these, some of you guys will know, some of you guys you won't know. And if you do know them, or if you're curious about them, that's what we're here for. So let's get into that. I did like the fact that I got to do Carry On yesterday, talk about the British comedy series. Hey, Missing Park, did I get it right? I hope so. And got some people turned on to Carry On that may not have been before. So hopefully some people will go out there and not curse me and actually like the Carry On stuff that they saw. So let's just dive right into it and do, where do we start? Okay, let's start with my childhood. The show that kind of like, let's start way back with my childhood. Excited me the most, and if Ian was here, he would totally be into this one. And this is Mr. Dress Up. So this was a kids program that came on in Canada for like a long period of time. This here is, well, I guess the titular character, Mr. Dress Up. His real name is Ernie Coombs. Now, Ernie Coombs has since passed on, and he was the guy that was in the, like, could have gone over to PBS and done the, what eventually became the Mr. Rogers Show. He, however, didn't want to leave Canada, and he recommended Fred Rogers. I don't have Full House, man. So he recommended Fred Rogers for the Mr. Rogers Show, and history was made. And both him and Fred Rogers were very progressive thinkers at their time, and they did push, you know, a more inclusive agenda. Now, what Mr. Dress Up did was he dealt a lot with the imagination, and he dealt a lot with artistry. He was an artist, and every episode of the series, he would draw a picture. He would sit there and he would draw a picture, and it would be an amazing picture. And a lot of people wouldn't take it in or realize it as a child, but a lot of kids did, and a lot of kids started drawing. I have friends that work in the art industry from watching Mr. Dress Up. You know, a little kind of like a more personal fact is that I went to see Mr. Dress Up when I was very young, when I was a kid. It was one of my first, like, you know, kind of concert experiences. It went very well. I actually cried because I didn't want to leave Mr. Dress Up at the end of the show. Now, my oldest, when Mr. Dress Up came back, when I was a dad, my oldest got to go see Mr. Dress Up herself, and she was very sad having to leave the show when Mr. Dress Up passed on. When Mr. Dress left the show. Hey, Dave. Hey, Diamond. So two generations. Like, unfortunately, before my youngest was able to see Mr. Dress Up, he did pass away. He retired his show and he went on. He did a few like college tours, because, you know, a lot of the people that had grown up with Mr. Dress Up, now like in college, were dads and parents of their own, and they really wanted to hear his story. Now, the original characters were these two here, Casey and Finnegan. The reason Casey was given the name Casey was to be inclusive to boys and girls. Casey had kind of a high-pitched kid's voice, so it was never stated whether Casey was a male or a female. That was done on purpose so both boys and girls watching the program could relate to the character. Casey had a dog named Finnegan, and eventually they would go on to have these other puppets. You know, the heretics, no, the ones that would come on for the next generation. But I grew up with the Casey Finnegan, and if you've ever heard the song "Down by the Bay," it's a kid's song. That actually is on Mr. Dress Up, and that's like Alligator Al. He's got this like pawn shop, sings it, like extremely ahead of its time. That's the thing. They were doing things back then and you didn't even realize it, but they just did it kind of in a way to Oh man, Five Tall Tales. Yes, dude, that's awesome. But I do recommend, like, if you're interested at all in like in children's television the way that went, there's like three like discs with this. So we got the Tickle Trunk Treasures because it's similar shows in Estonia. Yeah, that's the thing. The mindset for children's television when it's done well will actually be very similar all across. So we got the Tickle Trunk Treasures because what he would do every episode is he had a thing called a Tickle Trunk where he would add a bunch of costumes. He would go in and do up the costumes, make up a story, that type of thing. And this is the red set. This is the blue set of Tickle Trunk Treasures. And as you can see, that's one of his drawings right there. He drew this like in real time, by the way, usually right in front of our eyes. So that was actually pretty amazing. And of course, there is the green one. So there we go. And you can see Casey and Finnegan on that one right there. You can see there's like different as it goes through. And the way they put it is that the different eras, the different writers of the show, the red, green, and blue ones. So that is Mr. Dressup. Now, the other show that kind of encompassed like my childhood anyway, my youth, was Degrassi. So a lot of you, if you're younger, you probably know the newer Degrassi show that came on Netflix, or maybe the Degrassi show that came on during the 2000s. But when I was growing up, Degrassi was a thing for me as well. It was actually the original Degrassi series. That's the thing. That's like here. Like we've got a lot of American shows, a lot of UK shows. I didn't really take into the fact that they were like from another country. Now with the British shows, I kind of did. And to be totally honest with you, hey Isaac, how's it going? I just spoke about Mr. Dressup. Now, I'm not sure if it's like just the way that we were, it's Canada, but we actually took like a stronger held British shows to a high regard. Like I used to watch The Great Detective, I used to watch Minders, stuff like that. Fingers crossed it comes on undamaged. I don't have the Bud Bottle cassette myself yet, but I do really want to get it. So this is the original Degrassi. This is the kids of Degrassi Street. As you can see, this they're very young there. Now this is, of course, this she would become Caitlin. She's Lisa in this series here, I think. But the kids of Degrassi was a bunch of like specials that came on Canadian television, usually in the afternoon after kids got home from school. I know, I watched them as a kid, and they were fun. They had a lot of different like morality tales. But the cool thing about Degrassi right from the beginning is, although it kind of told a tale with a bit of a slight morality in it, it often left it up, and it would do this more so in the later series. It wouldn't give you a neat, tight ending at the end of the episode because life doesn't work that way. And from a young age, you kind of got to know that life doesn't work that way. Most of the time, you can make the right choice, but there's not always going to be an easy answer. And kids at Degrassi Street kind of started off doing that. Now they wanted to go even farther with that and kind of really get into their base, and they really did when they did this. And this is where it really became popular. This is Degrassi Junior High. These Degrassi shows, these early ones are really good. Now the later series became more soap operatic, but still tried to stay true to its core roots. But it definitely there's definitely what I would call Degrassi the Canadian years, and Degrassi would, in a way, if you want to think about like Power Rangers, there's the Saban and the Disney years. This is what I would call the pure maple syrup Canadian years. And I love this cast. Now, right here, hello kitty cat. Do not go puking on my couch anymore, okay? I had to clean my couch before I came down. Not the best picture, but I had a super huge crush on this character here by name of Caitlin, played by Stacey Mitson. And her. They were both on Aaron's teenage Google Doc list. And her. So yes, even then, Aaron had many crushes on the ladies. This show actually, what's really cool is he also did these things called Degrassi Talks. So often an episode would end and it would be about something. It could be about dealing with like a parent with alcoholism, or dealing with like sexual assault, stuff like that. And as Degrassi did not give any easy answers, and sometimes the storylines would kind of flow on through, and you'd see, they wouldn't be like continue, but you'd see characters like show up again. Like for instance, this character here, she is almost. What is that show again? A Wilderness Daniel Boone character. I'm going to try and remember that one actually as we go through. She gets groomed. Now this is how early they do with this. So she is groomed by one of the teachers, and as we know what grooming is now, it's talked about a lot more. To where he gets kind of touchy and makes her feel uncomfortable. Luckily, when the character's here, Wheels comes in at the right time, and she tells him like to stay away from her. She doesn't report him. Now, a sad note is that the character that played Wheels was actually a very likable character, but he had some problems in real life, and he passed away in his room, and it was a few days actually before they found him. Oh, welcome, John, from Scotland too. I will be doing a Giallo thing actually very soon, because I have had a few requests to do another Giallo episode, so that is coming up. I hope you don't mind coming in during the Canadian episode. Hopefully you'll be able to pick up on some stuff or some similar type shows that came over from Scotland. So what comes into play later on with this is that she goes back to see her little sister in a few trips, maybe a year or two down the road. And that teacher is teaching in her little sister's class, and then it comes to the time where she basically realizes, okay, it's time to speak up and to say something. So things can have repercussions down the road. Now, what I was mentioning before, the Degrassi Talks episodes was a series of short, like documentary type episodes, where they would talk about issues that happened on the show. Often, see, none of these people were actors when they went on the show. These were people that were actually scouted out. We're going to get to that one, actually. I do have one of those here. Really, really good show. I crush your head. First season. But definitely worth picking up. And if you have kids, if you have kids, I strongly recommend picking up Degrassi Junior High, specifically this one right here, because of the Degrassi Talks episodes. And we would use them, like teachers would use them in classrooms, where they would show the episode of Degrassi that related to it. Chicken Lady. I wasn't a big fan of Chicken Lady, to be honest with you. And they would show, and then they would show the Degrassi Talks episodes, and then we'd have like a conversation about it. Pretty woke back in the day, weren't we? And of course, we got on to Degrassi High. This is the final series of the original show, and there was the love of my life right there. We saw her before with short hair. Here she is, looking super cute with her 80s hairstyle. And this is Spike. She's one that dealt with the teen pregnancy. And this, see that? If you've ever watched this show, like, that was me. That was me in high school. I could completely relate to this character right here. Good or bad, I could, in the good ways and bad ways. So if you've never heard, look him up. Am I going to say his name? Probably not. Do you know why? Because I don't want to out me that much in my childhood and the way that I was. So since somebody mentioned it, let's get right into it. And this is the only season I got so far, and the complete series is out. So I do want to get it. Of Kids in the Hall. Now, Kids in the Hall was one of the kind of the big sketch shows here in Canada. Now, this wasn't the first one, and we'll get into like one of the other ones in a little bit. Now, one that I don't have any seasons or sets of. Right. Oh, you definitely. Degrassi is actually, I'll be honest with you, Degrassi, I actually do like Saved by the Bell. It had a lot of cute characters and stuff in it, but Degrassi is a better written show than Saved by the Bell. And it can be a bit stirring at first, because sometimes episodes will just end, giving you something to think about. So let me know what you think, like in all seriousness, because I really think it's something that should be watched by adults and my children. 3 times a day now. Okay, well, 3 times a day for you, but actually it was last night for me when I did those other 2, and one was broken up into 2 for a reason that I could not help, actually. So, Kids in the Hall was precursed by like other shows. Now, if I'm from Newfoundland, and there was a show that we had anytime, man. If you get something good out of this, that is awesome. there was like what we had a show called Codco, which and before that we had like a oh God, we had another show as well, Wonderful Grand Band, and they were like skit shows that that were extremely popular and influenced other television programs, both Canadian and abroad. Now, Wonderful Grand Band had a band like that was in it, but it dealt mostly with sketches with like usually a song at the end. Codco was, if you've ever seen any episodes of Codco online, it was pretty controversial in its day. It pushed like a lot of boundaries with its sketch comedy, including two friendly priests that meet each other on the road. If you haven't seen that Codco episode, oh yeah, that's the thing. It went all the way from the 80s. It had its comeback in largely part due to Kevin Smith's love of the series. Actually, and also if you've ever watched the show, I don't have any seasons, but I really wish I did, Trailer Park Boys, which I do like, by the way, the early ones especially. One of the actors on it did a reunion back in the 90s for the show. You watch Orphan Black and Due South? Well, we're going to get into both those shows, by the way. But this one here was a really cool comedy show. So as you see, a lot of these people went on to do other things. There's a Dave Foley right there. Oh God, I can't remember their names now. I know that's Scott, Kevin, Dave, Dave. Oh yeah, no, Bruce, and I'm sorry, I don't remember his name right now, but he was really, really good. So there was a character named Buddy, which was like kind of his gay character that he did, that would come on and he would just talk and tell stories, and it was extremely well done. Dave was had this kind of like same with me actually, kind of an off and on thing. Dave Foley he was kind of like shorter, diminutive, and he had this, well, he was the short one, but he had this kind of like, you could play the bosses, you could play just like the clean cut guy next door, but what he'd often play was the serial killer. There's an axe murderer actually, and he would go like, kind of door to door, or he'd knock on somebody's door and he'd ask if he had like a axe or a hatchet, because his got kind of like dull while he was like chopping the person up, and you needed, don't tell anybody, or chop chop. So this show is actually really, really funny. If you've never seen Kids in the Hall, definitely check it out. There's a lot of like running gags and shows like that. And they do, of course, they've gone on to do other things, news radio, other shows. This guy right here does a lot of voice work. Does a lot of like voice work on animated shows. So you've probably heard him. And if you're an animation fan. Next up is I've got all 4 seasons of this, and this is Due South. So if you've never seen this series, this is actually like really, really good. It's Sal Gross. We'll do another really good show, which I got to pick up, called Slings and Arrows. Deals with like news radio, one of your favorites. Yeah, and I liked it, and I didn't like the John Lovitz years. It's not his fault, but unfortunately Phil Hartman passed away. But I did like the early news radio. But so his father, who's murdered, at the beginning of the series. And he goes to the U.S. to try and help solve his father's murder. His father's played by a famous Canadian actor, Newfoundlander actually, Gordon Pinsent. If you don't know who Gordon Pinsent is, you should know who Gordon Pinsent is, because the guy's been in some Oscar-nominated films, and also he's in Blackula. He was the lead cop in Blackula. So all you blaxploitation fans should know Gordon Pinsent as the chief of police, New York chief of police, with a strong Newfoundland accent in the movie Blackula. He's not hiding it. He's got a strong Newfoundland accent. No way does it seem New York. See, that's the thing. I went into Due South more when they changed the cop. So what he's mentioning is that was it the second or third season, he brought in this guy. So, and we found out that the original guy that was playing the cop, well, he left the show, and they brought in this guy, and we found that this guy was the real guy. He was actually in hiding, and the other guy was just like somebody that was using his name. This is one of my favorite Canadian actors right here. His name is Callum Keith Rennie. He did a little show called, I didn't put it in here, it is kind of a Canadian show because it was shot in Canada, and it does have a lot of Canadian actors in it. Oh God, what's the name of it again now? It was a slasher program. It dealt with like it only lasted one season, and he played like a slasher on the show. He played like a slasher killer. It was a mystery show, and I talk about it all the time, and it's just like gone into my mind right now because I'm starting to get a bit of the cold myself. But also, you may recognize him if you watch the latest Saw film. He's in that, and he's the guy that everybody was hoping, spoiler alert, was going to be the new Saw killer. It didn't work that way, and it didn't work that way for a particular twist at the end of the film. But Callum Keith Rainey is probably known as one of the better Canadian actors. If you've watched Californication, he was in that as well. He had a prominent role in Californication for a season. His character was killed off at the end of the season that he was in, but it was an extremely good role that he did. It was probably the best that Californication ever was during his season on the show. Next up is a show that was sent. Change drama on TVA. Oh, you're talking. Yeah, well, Kristen Cruick was on it, and so was if you're a fan of like if you watch, Freddy versus Jason. He does a lot of like movies and stuff like that. Paul Gross is still going around, is still doing a lot of stuff, films, TV, all that type of stuff. Of course, did the series of Men with Brooms for a while. Oh, the other show you're talking about is what's it called? Northwood, something like that. So it ran for a while, and one of the big actors in that one was a Canadian actor that plays Hal Cooper on Riverdale, and also played the cop in Freddy vs. Jason. He was him alongside Kristen Cruick were like two of the big characters on that. Now, if he gets put in a wheelchair one portion of the show, and it was kind of neat because he became more popular, more famous, and he's the one that went in a wheelchair, much like Drake did on Degrassi in the later series. And love him or hate him, Drake started out. The musician Drake started on Degrassi. So here's Republic of Doyle. Now, this is probably less known than like a lot of the other shows that I'm going to show here. Now, this was shot in Newfoundland. It was actually shot in St. John's, the city that I lived in for the majority of time that I've been making these videos. If you've ever watched a little show, well, not a little show, a show by James Garner called The Rockford Files, well, Republic Doyle is very, very much like The Rockford Files. It's pretty much a modern day kind of like uptake on that. And don't think that just because it's like, from Newfoundland that there's can't be like good production values or good quality actors, and like Colin Farrell's in this show. You get like a few different actors like coming to the series, and basically Jake Doyle is a bit, his life's a bit of a mess. He's a private eye, and here's another little Aaron fact. I actually almost went into this. This was almost my my living. Actually, I almost went into a private investigation because I have a specific set of skills. No, actually, it was something that I was very interested in, but I ended up going in a different way. But yeah, so Alan Hocko did the Republic of Doyle. I think it ran for like 5 or 6 seasons. If you haven't checked it out, really check it out if you like detective shows. It's got more of a, he definitely leans more into to also the family life, the personal life, and like what goes on kind of behind the scenes. It does have a Newfoundland accent. You might have to take a while to get used to that, but it is a really good show, and it has some pretty cute girls there. It has an attractive cast too, so that's never a bad thing when you're looking at this type of show. Next up is another, probably one of the biggest comedic shows that ever came out of Canada, and it definitely birthed a lot of like super mega stars. And for my money, it was much better than the show that came out around the same time, which was Saturday Night Live, to the point where it even took the place of Saturday Night Live sometimes on NBC's lineup, and that was a little series called SCTV. Now, SCTV was a sketch show with a difference. Basically, what they did is that they had a framing device to put these things together. SCTV was actually a television channel, and if you look at some of these faces there, some of them are going to look kind of familiar to you. That, of course, is John Candy. He's passed away now, but he was an extremely well-known Canadian actor. What's worth watching right now? Let me come back to you on that one. This is worth watching, but it's not like a newer Canadian show, because I don't get to watch a lot of like television, as in like television now. I did watch like Kim's Convenience, stuff like that, but I don't really get to watch a lot of like modern day Canadian TV. So the actors on this, I'll just read it like the list of some of the actors here. So we got John Candy on here, Joe Flaherty, of course. He played a character on here. He played a few characters. He played the head of the station, but he also played the vampire, like horror host. So there's a horror aspect of this one as well. There's John Candy would play like Dr. Tongue in the 3D Dr. Tongue's, House of like Wax, or Dr. Tongue's 3D films. There you go. Yes. Well, I'm guessing some of the episodes were probably not done in Canada, like when they were going farther away. But yeah, they would. That they would go with like they would go with a lot of like mostly Canadian. We had a Canadian like team. Like we had a really good like I'm also a hockey fan growing up. I'm Canadian. It's kind of like you get born and you put a stick in your, you have a hockey stick in your hands. But a lot. Mr. Watson, a lot of the shows that you watch, you probably didn't even realize were Canadian, were that were horror and science fiction. Remember, Murdoch Mysteries. But yeah, definitely like Murdoch Mysteries definitely is a Canadian show. There's a flair for like a British type style, kind of like the. But yeah, but definitely if you haven't watched Murdoch Mysteries, it's a good show. They did a crossover with Public Dial, which I'm sure you know of. Where it was music views. Yeah, we had a show that's called. We had a channel called. We still have it actually. It's called Much Music, and it was the equivalent to MTV here. So we had our own hosts, like our own like VJs. We had people like the most popular for a lot of like guys growing up. Me especially, and I'll see if I can find her here. Was a girl named Erica M. You watch a lot of SCTV? So, let's see if I can find a good picture here. Obviously, she's gotten, but this is like, was Erica M. She was like one of the VJs on Much Music, and the Sliders, definitely Canadian. X-Files, also Canadian, for most of its running. Actually, you can see the decline of X-Files come the second they go to Los Angeles. It loses that air. Like X-Files was shot in Vancouver. A lot of shows were done in Canada. There's a lot of tax breaks that were given for shows to actually shoot in Canada. And sometimes even if the leads weren't Canadian, you notice that a lot of the actors like around them would be Canadian. So you've probably seen and been in like contact with watching a lot of Canadian actors and not realized it, and you see them pop up again and again, and that's because most of the science fiction shows that you watch are actually shot here in either Vancouver, Toronto, or Nova Scotia. SCTV was shot primarily like in Toronto and up in I think up in Alberta for a while too. Where they had one of their writing areas at, but well, get some sleep, Savannah, but welcome. But yeah, this one had a ton Night Flight. See, we had like I did get to see some Night Flight because it was more of like an American-based show. We had this show called Good Rockin' Tonight, which was kind of similar. We had like this weird like what you'd call the Captain Newfoundland show, which if you ever get to see it, you would have to be on psychedelics to understand it. That's not even like a, excuse me, no word of a lie. It's a really weird show. But yeah, it says Harold Ramis in this one. Dave Thomas is in this as well. Catherine O'Hara, of course, from from the Home Alone films. Rick Moranis. Yeah, that's it. See, in Canada we get a lot of that. So you asked about like kind of horror shows. Well, there was one when Dark Shadows was popular. Canada had its own version of Dark Shadows, and oh my God, today it's just one of those days. I'm just like not feeling great. Strange. Oh my God. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah, that is definitely Canadian, and better than Goosebumps in my opinion. Strange Paradise. Thank you. I had to look it up. Strange Paradise was a show again like one of those occult type shows, very much like in the vein of Dark Shadows. Ran for quite a while, and it was extremely popular, and became popular again. Got a renaissance when there was a drive-in classics channel that actually used to show it again in the every afternoon. It became kind of a cult hit again. So much like Dark Shadows, there was Strange Paradise, and was mentioned much like Goosebumps, where there was the superior show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Just like the opening of Goosebumps, like the opening of Very Afraid of the Dark. You tell me which one looks creepier to you. And there's also, an introduction by R.L. Stein or an introduction by the Midnight Society. I will go with the Midnight Society anytime. Actually, Eliza Cuthbert, who would go on to be in like movies like The Girl Next Door, and of course in the series 24. She started out on Are You Afraid of the Dark as one of the members of the Midnight Society, and in one of the few of the episodes. So this is Poltergeist: The Legacy. Ran for a few seasons, and this is actually a Canadian-European production. It was shot in Canada, but it definitely was a Canadian-European production. And a lot of shows that are done are usually co-production, sometimes with Canada and in Europe, or Canada and France. We do a lot of Canadian-French productions. But this one here, I really did enjoy. It could get a little bit silly at times, but I thought this was one of the better of this ilk of programming that was on at that time. And if you've never seen this, I really recommend at least checking out the pilot, see if it's something that you're going to like. Now, I will let you know that is not like a regular TV show where there is going to be some graphics and more graphic violence. There may be a little bit of nudity, especially in the early episodes of the show, kind of like the early episodes of Outer Limits. So if you ever watched that series, the Canadian, like the remake of Outer Limits that they did, that's Canadian as well. And that one definitely had like a bit of nudity and stuff in it, much like The Hitchhiker, which I don't have here today because it's wrapped and going to be put under my Christmas tree. Yeah, it did actually used to come on in the States after WWF Wrestling. They actually even combined Jesse, The Undertaker, into one of the episodes of, as a bad guy of of Poltergeist: The Legacy. I think maybe in the second or third season. So they did a kind of a crossover promotion episode, which was kind of neat because Undertaker had this kind of supernatural cultish character, and they were able to give him a different character. Obviously, it couldn't be the WWF Undertaker character, but he actually got to act on that show, and it's probably one of his first actual acting roles. They kept saying they were going to make this biker movie with him, but they never did make the biker film, which is a shame. So this is both seasons of this show, and this didn't play outside of the area that it was in, but I actually met the creators of the series, and I bought it directly from them. And this is a show called Temps Mort. I was intrigued right as I was walking past. I was at a convention. I was walking past the table and I saw this poster. I think I've got the poster somewhere of Temps Mort as well. And what they did is put the first season in here as well in a bonus disc. And see if it's written in English. If it is, maybe I can shoot. So basically, it's like a cataclysmic survival type of series. If you haven't seen it, it's actually pretty good. This was a show that I wanted to get because I wanted to learn French, and obviously I didn't do that. But now this show is probably going to come back for me because I am going to be learning French next year, and I do want to watch this show. Maybe this show will help out. Since you mentioned a wrestler and a TV series, Temps Mort, I'm not quite sure. It was a French-Canadian series, and unfortunately the back of this is written completely in French. So I as of yet don't know what's it mean. Temps Mort means, I'm going to get a dark death. What's it mean again? My French is so bad, which is shocking because I am Canadian. Time out. Wow, Temps Mort means time out. So let's try Temps Mort. I want to see if I can get like I feel bad that I don't have like a description of the show. Here we go. Good old IMDb, right? A geological event begins a series of wild weather changes. As the snowfall and low temperatures reach historic proportions, Joel, a Montreal mailman, and his friend head out of town. Things go from bad to worse as basic services break down. Isolated survivors try to cope when it appears that this new frozen dystopia is the new normal. Sometimes referred to as a Quebecois Walking Dead, the series features creative writing, convincing acting, and great cinematography. That's Temps More. So if that intrigues you, maybe you want to check it out. See, you don't need zombies. The human condition can bring out the real monsters in people, and Temps Mort's about that. Next up is a little series called Haven. Of course, it's based on the Stephen King short story. Obviously shot in Canada. And this actually did also have another WWE wrestler in it, because one that retired by the name of Adam Copeland, otherwise known, I guess, as Edge, in the WWE, became one of the, went on, like, kind of did a guest spot, and actually turned out to be like a series regular on the show, and did pretty well. That is, for people that remember, that is Eric Balfour, the guy that gets like killed off in a lot of TV shows, and also was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, where of course he, no spoiler after all these years, gets killed off as well. Oh no, the hospital show is called Kingdom Hospital, which is actually not really, Stephen King wrote on that one, but the Kingdom Hospital is actually based on another series, like I think it's a Dutch series called The Kingdom or something like that. That was kind of just like translated over by King. But Haven is actually based on one of King's novels. Which one? The Colorado Kid. Yeah, Colorado Kid, yeah. So this is based on like the Colorado Kid. If you've ever read that, then it's really well done. She comes in this town to investigate something and realizes that she's supposed to be there and she doesn't know why. And her past and her history are tied to this small town. And things unravel. She realizes that there's a lot of kind of weird sci-fi, supernatural stuff going on throughout the series, and you'll enjoy it. It's a fun little show. Now, next up is a show that I think did an extremely ballsy thing, and this is FX the series. Remember, I showed you guys during my Kino video that the Brian Brown movie FX. So they made it into a series. They did it in Toronto, in Canada. It lasted for 2 seasons. And this one right here, so this is the actor that would play Rolly in this one, and of course is the Brian Brown character. I really did like this show. I thought this was really fun. The first season had this actor here kind of play the role of the cop character, the Brian Dennehy role, and something happens at the end of at the beginning of the second season that changes everything. It really was a big shocker. A main cast member gets killed off at the beginning of the second season of the show, and it definitely took people a while to get used to. It's a fun show. It's like it's an action show. He's a special effects guy. He's solving crimes. I'm not quite sure of the question. What's a TV channel doing as a DVD? It's not a channel, it's a DVD. So, maybe they just came out wrong. It's just this seems not a question. Lost Girl, again, was another show shot in Toronto. And this dealt with a lot of mythological characters. Like everything, they had fays in here. I guess the more adult version of I guess what you call fairies. All kinds of mythological creatures would come up in Lost Girl. So again, really did enjoy this show. Definitely one that I liked a lot. Now, I haven't opened this one up yet. No, I did watch a show when it came on TV originally, and that is the Mysterious Island. Again, it has that HMV sticker. Yeah, I like Lost Girl. Thank you, Andy. I actually like Lost Girl as well. The Mysterious Island didn't last a long time. Again, it was just ran 18, 22 episodes type of thing. It was okay. But I enjoyed it. I'll rewatch it again. It was one of those fun shows that kind of just was in its time type of thing. I do like those those Jules Verne type shows. Next up is the Adventures of Sinbad, the complete first season. This is another show that changed the female lead in by the second season of the show. You had a completely different lead. I really want the rest of the series, by the way. This one is really hard to find. And I'm a huge Sinbad fan. It's of course this is very cheesy special effects, especially for by today's standards. But it's a very fun kind of light show. If you like shows like Hercules and Xena, you're definitely going to enjoy Sinbad, The Adventures of Sinbad, because that is that ilk of show. It is that kind of light, kind of fun show. Now to mention one here that somebody mentioned on here before, I'm missing the first and I think the last season of this one here, and this is a great sci-fi show. So if you have not seen this, I do recommend it, and it's a show called Orphan Black. The actress in Orphan Black was amazing. What's really cool is they said $14.95, and when these, I bought this on a buy any DVD for $1 a day. So I got each one of these for $1 each. Each one of these sets for $1 each. This is a really great show, and I really don't want to explain too much about it. It's just, let's just say it deals with cloning a lot. So we get the main actor there, and as you can see here, there's many different versions of her there. It is really, really a good show to check out. The lead actress is incredible, and she plays many different like clone versions of herself that are completely different. And it's something that definitely should be watched by anyone who likes this type of show. Yeah, yeah, and I agree. She was amazing, and hopefully she's going to go on. I'm not sure what she's doing right now, but hopefully she'll go on to do a lot more really cool stuff. Now this is one that, again, I love the way this is. Where this is like a kind of a cheesy fun show. Do you like cheesy fun? Do you like Shatner? Are you a William Shatner fan, guys? You should be, because William Shatner rocks. But this is William Shatner. William Shatner wrote a series of sci-fi novels called, the Tech War novels, the Tech World novels. So this is Tech War, William Shatner's masterpiece, as they say. This is a complete series. It starred Greg Evigan, who did a lot of work, like in shows like I guess in the 70s it was like BJ and the Bear. In the 80s it would have been My Two Dads. Recently it was in General Hospital playing a bad guy. This is Greg Evigan here. You've probably seen him at least in 1 or 2 shows. He's just one of those actors that kind of like does everything. He's one of those like likable actors. So Tech War deals with this drug called Tech and this cop that is is trying to kind of like take things down. It is really fun, and it started out as a series of movies. Now this has them all. This has all the TV movies as well as the complete series. So it starts off with the this is episode 22, but like there's movies here. Yeah, so the original 4-part pilot. There's a 4-part pilot to this, which would be later broken up and comprise 4 episodes. But definitely really worth checking out. If you've never seen Tech War, definitely a fun little show. All right. Next up is a very Canadian show, and starred Nicholas Campbell, who, if you don't know who that is, he's a well-known actor here in Canada, and that is this guy right here. So Da Vinci's Inquest, the complete first season. Of course, Da Vinci's Inquest ran for quite a while, and after it got over, they did like another Da Vinci show. Arctic Air. I'll look it up. I'm actually kind of curious now. So Da Vinci's is this a coroner? Yeah, he's a coroner in this series. So this is Nicholas Campbell. He was also, remember when I did the episode where I talked about the show The Hitchhiker? He was the original actor that was in the first 4 episodes, like the narrator guy for that. He was the Hitchhiker. But when the series ran got taken on to be a complete series on HBO, he wasn't available to do it, so they had to get another actor. Who does remind me of like kind of a young Nicholas Campbell, actually. This is actually is a good show. It's more of a dramatic show. I'm not sure where it is. I had it here by Traitors season 1 as well, which was another one of those shows. And if you're a fan of like, and I didn't bring it downstairs, I got it upstairs. Is like a show called Red Green. Now Red Green was like a very popular like Canadian comedy, and it actually kind of crossed over and went over into the US and the UK. A lot of people knew the series Red Green. One of the main actors is this guy that plays plays his, I don't know if his nephew, and he's got like the slick back hair, and he's like totally geeky, and He's also on the show Traitors, but instead in Traitors, he's like this evil, kind of like slimy, like manipulative character. So really cool to see him do both those shows with very, very different, like different things. Oh yeah, Mike Myers did do a Canadian. Well, of course, that would be the washer, but the dryer's not ready. So the dryer, but the washer's not ready. So it's kind of the way. Do you like Da Vinci's Inquest? I actually thought it was pretty good. I haven't seen a lot of it. That's why I started buying. I found this one at a Dollarama, which is a dollar store around here in Canada, and that's where I found Traitors at the very same day. I would like to get more of these. I don't know how many more of these were put out there. Donnelly Rhodes is in this, and there's a show that my better half, who lived over in Morocco at the time, used to watch, and probably had a bit to do with her becoming a marine biologist, and that was a show called Danger Bay. Now, Danger Bay starred Donnelly Rhodes, who if you look him up, guys, you've probably seen him in something. Donnelly Rhodes was an actor that became really popular for the series Danger Bay. MythQuest. Ooh, I don't remember. I kind of remember MythQuest. Now, if you're in the UK or in the United States, you probably saw Danger Bay there on like one of your TV stations. I know Danger Bay went on Nickelodeon, I think, over in the US, and it was basically about a marine biologist, and with his two kids. He had one was played by Ocean Hellman, and they would which was again a girl that a cute girl that I had a crush on back when I was a teenager, and they would do basic sea type adventures, and people would like try and like steal like aquatic animals or poaching or stuff. It was just a really fun show, and the theme song is really good. So after you watch this video, I do recommend just going looking up some of these Canadian theme openings. King of Kensington, Danger Bay. Danger Bay has a really cool kind of get you really pumped opening. Danger Bay came out around the time that another series came out called Matt and Jenny. Big Wolf on Campus. Actually, I remember Big Wolf on Campus. And yeah, it's exactly that's the thing, right? The Danger Bay and Matt and Jenny. Matt and Jenny was the show that starred Megan Follows. Megan Follows would go on to become famous for being Anna Green Gables in the Anna Green Gables miniseries. Is that they did around 2 or 3 of them, which would lead into a show, another show called Wind at My Back. It's saw Danger Bay, excellent, and what's considered like this kind of Renaissance era of Canadian period television, where it was done at like a strong level that I don't think it had been had been done before. So it was really good to see that done. If you've never seen the Anna Green Gables shows with Megan Follows, the movies, and you have like kids, I do recommend like something you can watch with the kids, and it's kind of family entertainment. It's fun, and it's kind of cool and cheesy. Another show that I watched, I've got the first 2 of the 3 seasons. This also is a Canadian series, is Beastmaster. And if you know Beastmaster, the movie, of course, from Don Cascarelli, this would be the series. Don't you love the way this is done, like the different color eyes? So this is of course, Mark Singer is not the Beastmaster in this. This was done much later, but this is the original cast there. We don't remember what is Canadian. Beastmaster or Anne Green Gables. Anne Green Gables is really Canadian. It was actually shot in like a PI, where the Anne Green Gables Museum's at. But Beastmaster, yeah, this is also a Canadian show. Again, this one was probably a co-production, because this is Daniel Goddard, really? No, I've seen him in other stuff. Monica Schneer's in this. She did like a bunch of those erotic shows. Yeah, this one is an Australian-Canadian production. So Australian-Canada did this one together. But whenever you see like a show like this, Danger Bay. Yeah, Danger Bay was completely Canadian. Oh yeah, there was a Beastmaster. Just actually ran 3 series, Andy, but I only had the first 2. But no, Danger Bay is proudly Canadian. It was like one of the early Canadian shows, much like the Raccoons, right? They came out around the same time. You probably don't know the Raccoons, but there was a show called the Raccoons. It started off as a Raccoons Christmas special, which dealt with these kids, and they met these raccoons who had this this tree. Then there was like a 1 hour 1 hour movie about the raccoons, and it's done on their own planet type of thing, where the raccoons talk. There's an evil character named Cyril Sneer that's kind of like an industrialist, and he wants to get rid of trees and all this type of stuff. And he's got like this young son Cedric that's trying to help out the good raccoons. And that actually ran into like a TV show. And not only did it have a TV show, but it had a hit song as well on the pop charts. So it called "Run With Us." So if you've never heard of that, there's something else you can Google. Nope, still doesn't stop. When it stops, I gotta go, and then I'll come back. This will let me rest my throat a bit, and we can actually keep going. You guys can talk amongst yourselves as well, by the way. Feel free to do that. I feel like I'm doing more of the talking here than I normally do. The Raccoons was another series that came on around that time, alongside with the Edison Twins, which was also another good show. Now this show, yeah, most people know this one's Canadian anyway. So this is a series called Warehouse 13. And I really, really like this series, actually. This came on the Sci-Fi Network. I have like most of the series. I don't have the 5th season, but I have the first, second, third. If you want to know if the show's Canadian or not, look for this actor right here. See this actor? This actor is pure Canadian. So look, whenever you see this actor in a show, it's usually a Canadian show or a Canadian film, or at least it has been shot in Canada. So yeah, we did a lot of stuff here. So just bear with me for a second. I've got to go check the laundry, and we'll look at some more stuff. I have some weird taste, Peter, but we'll get into Friday 13th. No, Friday 13th series was a different show altogether. That had a different title that was also shot in Canada, by the way, and it had a different title called Friday's Nightmares or something like that, or Friday's Curse in some countries. I'll be right back. You only saw 2 episodes. Warehouse 13. It's worth like watching more of. It's one of those shows that I didn't originally get into, and after watching a few more episodes, I got kind of addicted to it. That's kind of how it goes for me with a lot of TV shows. Now, the last show that I'm going to show in this particular part of the collection is a show that I really, really dug, and it was kind of the X-Files of its ilk, of its time, but done in a very different way. And it was done by Dan Aykroyd, who is a very strong believer in the supernatural. So when you saw Dan Aykroyd fighting ghosts and Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd actually believes in that stuff. Whether you do or not, Dan Aykroyd actually really does, and he has done a lot of research on paranormal activity. So it made sense that he would be hosting a series. Ed and Eddie, yes, is out of Canada. I've met one of the voice actors of the series, Ed and Eddie. She also played in Mortal Kombat, the film, the second film actually, as one of the bad guys. She was in a convention that I went to in St. John's. Actually, she's really good. If you watch Battlestar Galactica, you know, the new series, primarily like, you know, strongly Canadian. There's like a large Canadian portion of the new Battlestar Galactica show. And we get like a lot of those actors like that'll come to conventions around here and talk about their time on that series. So this one here is Psi Factor. Now this was really cool show. Great cast, by the way. And it doesn't have everybody in the cast right there. Where does it have? So the one that I like the most, where's he at? Like I know Colin Fox is in this. Colin Fox actually did the. We got to put him here somewhere. No, they don't even list him. Though he does show up in like the rest of the box set. So the first season of Psi Factor pretty much ran like a standard show. Dan Aykroyd would come and he would like introduce it, and originally in the first season there would be like 2 episodes in one show. There'd be 2 different stories in one episode, and it would later become like more of like X-Files-ish with like as it went on with conspiracies and stuff like that. Had the star of Max Headroom in it as well. This is the second season of Psi Factor, as you can see right there. the third season. You can tell it's like a sci-fi horror show. Just look at that. Look at that there. And season number 4. So again, huge fan of the series Sci Factor. If you never saw it, do recommend. It's one of those. That is true, actually. It does come with it from. I hate that sound. I really do. Of course, I showed recently on here King of Kingston, which was another like Canadian television program. And I'm trying to think now of like some Canadian box sets that I got that I can show you. Obviously, you guys have seen my Black Christmas Blu-ray, which is a Canadian exclusive. The Editor Blu-ray, which again is another Canadian exclusive, has like a more Jalloist cover than they had in the U.S. I have the sets for Prom Night and the Prom Night collection, and that is again a Canadian exclusive. I got like the series of films like the Ginger Snaps ones here. It does, doesn't it? It is annoying as hell, isn't it? Tell me that's not annoying to you guys. I actually put up the thing so it would stop going, would stop making that freaking noise. But I'm just waiting for the because I'm doing laundry, and what I'm doing right now is I'm doing some towels and stuff. So I'm waiting for that to dry. Towels take longer, and then I've got like the clothes like in the washer, towels and already in the dryer, and I got a bunch of laundry to do. You've seen Sci Factor. How did you find the Scalder? Did you watch like I found that the first season is a little bit weaker than the other seasons, but that's because they really didn't know where they're going with that at the time. We do a Canadian Best Buy, steal books and slips and stuff like that. Marathon Man, I don't know. Marathon Man is the time when I'm like, Dustin Hoffman, you're a dickhead. You know, the story behind like Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. But that's, yeah, I'm trying to think if we got any more Canadian stuff or whether we should just move this into a different direction. But I may move this off right now because basically, if you guys can't tell, I'm losing my voice. So I guess in a way this is a mini movie club. We wanted to get in here and like just look at like some like Canadian shows, kind of open your eyes up to some of that there. So I'll mention a couple of different things that came out here in Canada just before I go, so I don't totally lose my voice. There was of course Much Music, which was the equivalent to MTV. We had a lot of really good hosts, and over the years, Much Music went on to, like, to spawn off the same way as MTV did, different Much Music, like, channels and stations. But the original Much Music dealing with music was the best. We had a Switchback, which was a Canadian show that came on every Sunday. That was another way we found out music videos. We see Batman, stuff like that on there, the Munsters. We had shows like... The Friendly Giant, which dealt with had this guy that would play this flute, and there'd be like these puppets would come in through this makeshift castle, and every episode would be like we'd see the feet of the giant first, right? It only ran like 15 minutes like per episode, and it would look up, look way up, and he said, and it would be he'd be dressed in the giant clothes, and they'd have this doll this doll furniture, and be like and here you go, so I got a chair set aside for you and a chair put aside for you, so come on in, sit at the castle, rest up your feet, we'll talk for a spell, that type of thing. It was actually, he had a very soothing voice too. We're in a lot of cases we've dealt with a more of like kind of a, I guess you might want to say a European sense when it comes to our some of our television. Now don't get me wrong, we've had sometimes when they tried to cut things or ban things and stuff like that. We'll find it's a little bit slacker when it comes to with more, we'll have some nudity in some shows and stuff like that. Not a lot, no, unfortunately, because I think I'd prefer what's more damaging, like a shit ton of violence or like a pair of breasts on the screen, really, or a butt or whatever. Yeah, so no, we do have more. It's more of a relaxed type of setting. Canada has been like that anyway. We're fairly chill people, to be totally honest with you. That's can be good and bad, I guess. It depends on how you take it. But you know, we're still, you go in the city, it's a city, it's the hustle bustle type of thing. But yeah, that's Canada. That's the way we are. There you go. DVDs with maple syrup. Hey, Rich, how's it going? Yeah, well, I really, and I actually, and I'm oh, I have seen Naked Attraction. I hate that. But Naked Attraction is a fun little show. Have you ever seen that, guys? It's the most superficial but fun like show that you're gonna see. It's a dating show, right? And the one that's talking about there is a dating show, but with a difference. So they don't ask so many. You don't get to ask so many questions at the beginning of this dating show. Six people, right? 6 people come out, and like we don't see them first. They'll be in these different colored tubes. Then the person will come out, and they'll say, "First, show us the bottom half." And so the tubes will lift up, and you will see the bottom half. I mean, like up to here, right? And they're completely naked. It could be guys, could be girls. Sometimes if they like both, it's guys and girls. It'll be like a combination of both, and they are completely naked. And they'll like look at like them, and they'll kind of judge them on the nudity aspect, like, oh, I like this part of a person, and this part I'm not quite sure of, type of thing. And then they'll go up to here, they'll go up to here, and then they'll do like a judging type of thing. With each time that they go through, the person has to take out one of the people has to eliminate somebody. And they may like think, okay, this part here didn't really catch my attention, but they'll come up totally and like, oh my God, I really should have picked that person. Should have kept them in the dating pool. It's a fun little show. It's very light, and you know, they're completely naked, and even the person that has to judge the other people before he or she can choose the person that they're going to choose for their dating show. Yeah, right. It's flipped at the end. They have to get undressed, so they have to be judged themselves by the people that they come in and ask that person questions as well. So it's a really cool little show. It is fun. It is nudity, and you know, normally I'll say like, oh, you don't let your kids watch this because, but no, it's basic like serious silly stuff. But it's just a fun like silly little show that I'll be honest, it can get extremely addictive watching. It's kind of a fun show. So there you go, guys. That's a different weird. Like I started off with Canadian, I ended with a little bit of a British twist to it, which makes sense since Canada and Britain, where we do see we still, even years after, like moving away. I'm a Newfoundlander, so years after like moving away from like separating from Britain, a lot of us are still, and you still find people in Newfoundland are like, we never should have moved from Britain. We definitely should have moved from Britain. I haven't seen Battle of the Bod, so that's one to check out. I'll look into it and see if that's a similar type of show. But my voice is completely gone. Thank you guys so much for joining me in the movie. Maybe I did too many in like the space of like a 2-day period. Thank you for joining me here in the movie library tonight. I am Aaron. You guys are the Movie Club, and as always, you guys are fantastic. You rock, and I will see you here next time in the Movie Club. And what's the topic? Well, we'll find out. Later, guys. Have a great evening.